This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with one of the real good guys in the world of wine, Eugene Mlynczyk. How are you today, Eugene?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful summer day in Toronto and it's not raining, so that's...
Always a good thing. Now, you are now a master of wine, but I'm interested in how you found yourself driven towards that title. And I would like to ask you a very simple first question. Can you remember your very first experiences of wine?
You know, I came from Ukrainian or Polish background, and if anything was cultural, there was probably vodka. Probably my first memory is something like a homemade plum wine, as many Eastern Europeans would make. And if it was commercial, maybe something like Kurzberry, the Danish liqueur, which I remember my mom liked a lot, and she used to collect the little bottle that had a little mini glass, a little gold glass that was sort of etched into the main bottle. So that would probably be my first experience. Otherwise, it was California where I went to school.
Now, when you went to university and the like, and you were introduced to alcohol as a whole, was wine something that was on your menu at that point?
When I went to university, yes, in the sense that I was probably one of the few kids at that time of legal drinking age, because I came from grade 13 in Toronto, so I was a year older than most of my cohort down there in California. And I was often the one that was given some cash to go and buy some alcohol for people. We used to have a speakers series. It sounds fancier than it really was, where I remember hopping on my bicycle and my backpack, bicycle to Safeway with $20 to buy a couple bottles, or maybe even 3 bottles of, let's say, Chilean wine that would be combined with a speaker we invited from campus. So that was an indirect way that I became a liquor buyer or a wine buyer.
At what point in your life did you decide that you would enjoy a career in wine?
When I lost my job, which was at the McMichael Art Gallery up in Kleinburg.
This is the one where you were changing light bulbs?
I was changing light bulbs. I was a glorified light bulb changer, you know, and you can talk about stress or lack of stress in life, and that was a low stress job, but amazingly I think you do find extra little challenges to fill your brain, and there were often a lot of troubles as well. But when that career ended, mostly due to government budget cuts, always a lesson for anybody thinking about entering the arts, I thought, what else do I love? You know, and my initial job was in books, I was in the arts, and then I thought I love wine, or I'm somewhat interested in it, and I tried to become a product consultant at the LCBO. And through a couple steps, became an agent working for an agency here in Toronto.
Which agency was that back then?
That was Sharton Hobbs, which is still much around these days.
Oh yes, very much so.
Great portfolio, yeah. And I learned a lot there and enjoyed my time there. Yeah.
And from Sharton Hobbs, how did that career progress?
I was hired by Vincor Canada in around 2005, 2006, and was carrying the bag, as they say, working on the street with, not at the literal street, but selling to restaurants and to the LCBO stores.
I remember
I learned
those
a lot.
days, yeah.
Yeah, and including, restaurants, including yourself, perhaps,
yeah, exactly,
when you had a couple stints here and there.
Now, you chose to embark upon the MW, the Master of Wine program. When did you decide that would be a good idea?
You know, I thought about it after graduating from the diploma program. I should just give you a little preface, is that initially when I applied to become a product consultant at the LCBO, I was told quite firmly that I was underqualified. So I quickly determined, what shall I do? I will immediately start taking wine courses. So within 2 years, I sort of graduated through all of the product knowledge levels 1, 2, and 3, WSET courses right up through diploma in 2002. For that decade in between, almost decade, between 2002 and 2011, when I decided to start the MW program, I thought about the MW program, but I thought there is no perfect time in life to do this. This is not the right time. We've had a family, our kids are still too young. I'm changing jobs, it's not the right time. And it took a little nudge from my boss at the time, Ann Givens, who gave me a very good nudge and also a nod of support that she would help find a way for me to have enough study time, etc. And in 2011, I embarked on that journey. Without the push, as I would say, of my immediate department people, I wouldn't have started.
You have mentioned a number of times over the years that your employers were very supportive in your continuation of your studies going for the MW.
Yeah, and That to some people is a bit of a surprise in the sense that, you know, we're a larger company. I was working for Constellation Brands. Now we're called Arterra Wines Canada. And often a larger company is given short shrift. You know, small is beautiful, and small is beautiful. But we have to be careful, because when you have a larger company with some resources, they can be pretty smart too. And the people that I work for are very smart folks. And I think there's always some benefit to education, and our company definitely realizes that. I was very happy that I found a way to study. There was much personal effort expended. There was a lot of support where it made sense from a company perspective, and without my company support along the way, I wouldn't have arrived at the end of the journey, so to speak.
Going into the MW, where did you feel your strengths and your weaknesses were?
Going into the program or going into the exam?
Going into the program.
Well, it's a funny question in a way, because my colleague who's currently still in the program, Elsa McDonald, who's a very smart cookie, she and I once compared notes on, okay, Eugene, let's look at what are our strengths, what are kind of in between elements, and what are our weaknesses. And the strengths, we had a few. In between elements, again a few, and almost the entire third column, which was weaknesses, filled most of a page. So I'd say that I thought that I knew a lot about a lot at a small level of depth about a lot of different areas, but that where I was an expert, relatively few. And at the end of the program, not meaning to jump ahead of where you might go to, I still feel that I know a lot, and I know about the breadth of the industry globally, and that is one of the great advantages of the MW program. I'm just beginning to specialize and become a true master in certain areas.
So you became an MW in 2015. Is that correct?
Right. That's right. Yeah. So about almost 2 years ago, it seems like I'm becoming a veteran eventually.
And what kind of opportunities have opened up for you since you became an MW? Because many people ask, like, what would I do with a Master of Wine qualification?
Yeah, and many people have different answers, ranging from the Master of Wine was a great academic experience, but didn't really change my work life fundamentally. But from my personal perspective, it did change things, where now I'm in a national role rather than a regional role, and I'm involved in a mix of things. So I've had a job that I've helped create within our company, Arterra Wines, that didn't exist before, and it involves a mix of sort of brand ambassador roles, but I'm not a brand ambassador. It involves some wine education, but I'm not a wine educator only per se. It also involves a lot of sales, but I'm not tied individually to the sales in the different markets across the country. I do a little bit of all of those things. And there's also a certain degree of travel to keep up with the world of wine knowledge, because it's ever changing. So if I could say there's a magic to having finished the Master of Wine and become a Master of Wine, I'm part of a global community. I'm talking to a lot of folks around the world, including other Masters of Wine, and I think the doors have been opened, including internally in my company, to a really interesting career that's far from over, with hopefully many decades of interest to come.
And one final question. What advice would you give to any budding Master of Wine students with the experience you have gone through?
A couple things is, if you decide to take on the challenge of the Master of Wine program, similarly to, I'm sure, the Master Sommelier program and other qualifications, it may be the single hardest thing you attempt to do in your life. So do not underestimate it. Be ready to work really hard, but understand also that there probably is no perfect time in life, and that's what kept me hesitating for almost a decade before I began. Just jump into it at the time you believe you've got the capacity to do it, and rely on your support network. You can't do it alone. There's got to be other people that are helping you along the way.
Eugene Mlynczyk, thank you very much for joining us in Trinity Bellwoods Park today. We always enjoy catching up and sharing a couple of glasses of wine.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Bye for now.
Bye.